Please don't scroll. Not because I need your attention, but because what I'm about to say only makes sense if you've lived it. People think improvement is loud. They imagine applause, progress charts, validation. They think if you get better, faster than everyone else, the world opens its arms. It doesn't. It gets quieter. When you improve quickly, people don't always notice the work. They notice the distance. One day, you look around and realize you're standing somewhere familiar, but the conversations feel different. Not hostile, just colder. You haven't changed your values. You haven't slowed your effort. You're still doing the work when no one is watching. But something shifts. The encouragement fades first. Then, the questions stop. Then the silence settles in. And that silence doesn't mean peace. It means you've moved past the version of you that made other people comfortable. When you grow faster than expected, when you grow with, you break the unspoken agreement to stay relatable. People don't say that out loud. They just start watching instead of walking with you. You're still visible, but you're no longer accompanied. And the strange part is this. From the outside, from the inside, it feels like being left in a room that slowly empties without anyone saying goodbye. That's the part no one prepares you for. If this sounds familiar, don't rush past it. This is where the story actually begins. At first, the distance feels subtle. It shows up in small ways. Less eye contact, shorter replies, conversations that end a little too quickly. No one confronts you. No one explains anything. They just adjust. You start noticing that your excitement isn't shared anymore. Not because what you're doing isn't meaningful, but because it reminds people of something uncomfortable. Change creates contrast, and contrast creates pressure. When you improve faster than everyone else, you unintentionally become a mirror. Not a motivational one, a confrontational one. Your discipline highlights their hesitation. Your consistency exposes their excuses. Your progress forces questions they weren't ready to ask themselves. So, instead of leaning in, they lean back. Not out of hatred, out of self-protection. They tell themselves stories to make the distance feel reasonable. That you've changed. That you're too intense. That you're different now. It's easier than admitting. They don't want to grow at the same pace. You can feel it in the air. The jokes shift. Support turns conditional. Pride turns into quiet comparison. And suddenly, you're no longer part of the rhythm. You're offbeat. Not wrong, just faster. You start choosing your words more carefully. Not to be dishonest, but to avoid making other people uncomfortable. You downplay your effort. You soften your ambition. You shrink your excitement, not because you want to, but because being fully yourself costs too much socially. And that's when a new question appears. Not out loud, just in your head. Is it worth it to keep growing? If it means growing alone, hold on to that question. We're not answering it yet. That's when the conflict turns inward. Not because you suddenly stopped believing in yourself, but because isolation has a way of rewriting questions. You don't ask, "Am I wrong?" You ask, "Am I too much? Too focused? Too disciplined? Too serious about something no one else seems willing to take seriously?" You replay conversations in your head, not the arguments, the moments where you held back, the things you didn't say, the excitement you muted, the honesty you edited. You wonder if growth is supposed to feel this heavy, because no one tells you this part. Improving faster doesn't just change how others see you. It changes how you see yourself. You start monitoring your own intensity. like it's a flaw instead of a fuel. You ask whether you're being unreasonable for expecting more from yourself, from others, from life. And the hardest part isn't the doubt. It's the discipline required to keep going, without reassurance. No applause. No shared momentum. No one saying, "You're on the right track." Just progress. And quiet. This is where most people slow down. Not because they can't continue, but because continuing without validation feels like walking without a shadow. You still show up. You still do the work. But a new weight settles in. The realization that improvement has a cost. No one warned you about. And you haven't even paid the full price yet. This is where staying becomes a decision, not a dramatic one. No speeches. No turning points. Just a quiet choice you make, over and over again, when no one is watching. Because improving faster means you don't get to blend in anymore. Your standards rise, and suddenly you're the one people wait on. Your consistency becomes something others rely on, even when they no longer walk beside you. If something fails, it feels like it lands on you first. If something works, it becomes what we expected all along. There's no celebration in that, just responsibility. You carry momentum that isn't shared. You hold structure that others step in and out of. You become dependable in a way that slowly exhausts you. And the strange part is this. No one asks if you're tired. They assume discipline cancels fatigue. That progress makes you immune to doubt. So you keep going. Not because it's easy, but because stopping would feel like betraying the version of you that endured the lonely parts to get here. This is the point where improvement stops feeling exciting and starts feeling heavy. Not because you regret growing, but because growth has made you visible to responsibility and invisible to support. You're no longer choosing improvement for recognition. You're choosing it because walking backward would cost you more than walking alone. And that kind of commitment doesn't look impressive. It looks quiet. It looks repetitive. It looks misunderstood. And it keeps going, long after people stop noticing. If you're still here, that already says something. Not about me, about you. Because most people don't stay. When the story stops being exciting, they stay for the highlights, for the before and after, for the clean conclusions. But this part, the quiet middle, is where people usually leave. So if you're listening, not multitasking, not waiting for a punchline, just present, that matters. More than you think. You didn't come here for instructions. You didn't come here to be impressed. You stayed because something in this feels familiar. The distance, the pressure, the way progress can isolate you before it ever rewards you. And I want you to know, your presence changes the weight of this moment. Not by fixing it, not by agreeing with everything, just by staying. That's rare now. Attention has become transactional. People listen to respond, to judge, to move on. But listening without urgency, without demands, without needing something in return, that's not passive. That's an act of respect. If you've ever been the one who kept showing up, while others slowly drifted away, you already understand this language. No explanation needed, just recognition. And for the first time in a while, the silence doesn't feel empty. It feels shared. There's a moment that comes after the silence settles. Not clarity, not relief, just space. Enough space to notice that the pressure never really left. You just learned how to carry it more quietly. Improving faster doesn't make the doubts disappear. It just changes their shape. They stop asking whether you're capable and start asking whether it's worth it, whether the distance is permanent, whether connection always has to lag behind growth, whether every step forward requires another step away from someone. Those questions don't come with answers. They sit with you. On long drives, late nights, moments that should feel like progress. but feels strangely hollow. And yet, despite all of that, something small refuses to go away. Not ambition, not ego, hope, not the loud kind, not the kind that announces itself, the quiet kind, the kind that exists because, every so often, someone recognizes the cost without needing it explained. Someone doesn't rush you, doesn't ask you to be smaller, doesn't demand a version of you that's easier to digest. They don't fix the distance. They don't erase the loneliness. They just don't turn away. And that's enough to remind you that improvement doesn't have to end in isolation. That growth doesn't automatically cancel connection. That being ahead doesn't mean being alone forever. There's no resolution here, no conclusion to tie this up cleanly. Just the understanding that choosing to keep going doesn't mean choosing emptiness. It means trusting that somewhere ahead, the space you've been walking through will eventually make room for people who can walk with you. Until then, you carry both things, the progress and the quiet hope. There's a point in every long stretch of growth where you realize something uncomfortable. You're not tired of the work. You're tired of being misunderstood while doing it. Tired of explaining choices that were never made for approval. Tired of shrinking clarity so it feels less threatening to others. And eventually, you stop explaining, not out of bitterness, out of preservation. Because not every part of your journey needs an audience. Some parts only need endurance. Improving faster doesn't make you superior. It makes you earlier. Earlier to the questions. Earlier to the wait. Earlier to the loneliness that comes before alignment. And if that's where you are right now, ahead, quiet, still, moving, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not disconnected. You're not broken. You're not difficult. You're just in the part of the process most people never see because they turn back before they reach it. This isn't a moment to celebrate, and it's not a moment to quit. It's just a moment to stand in honestly, to acknowledge that growth can be isolating and still be worth it. If you're listening to this and feeling that familiar mix of clarity and heaviness, let it be enough for now to know you're not alone in it. No applause, no resolution, no promise that it gets easier. Just this: you're still here, still improving, still choosing to move forward, even when the path feels quiet. And sometimes, that's all progress looks like.